When people ask me what the best premium tank in World of Tanks is, this one is near the top, if not at the top, tier for tier. The Hellcat 105 is quite possibly the best premium tank that I've used personally that can dish out so much damage, and I've actually averaged 2.3 thousand damage in this tier 6. This is a tier 6 that's able to do 350 damage per shell. It gets premium rounds that are genuinely pay to win. You literally fire premium rounds, you get increased penetration, and because it's wargaming, you get increased damage as well, because that makes a whole lot of sense. But there we go. Anyway, this tank, if you fire the standard rounds, gets 320 alpha. If you fire the premium rounds, you get 350 because, yep, wargaming. But the key thing about this tank is not just the actual gun, it's the reload of said gun. You've got about a 7.8 second reload to fully reload this tank. You've also got a disgustingly good camo rating as well, which means that for the most part you never really get spotted, at least unless you maybe wanted to get spotted. But either way, this tank is superb in terms of how much damage it can deal, and you can see here it's actually got decent actual accuracy as well. It's not terrible, it's nothing like a Gorilla or something like that, but it definitely has like a lot of good features with regards to the accuracy. The one thing that does let it down that you're seeing right now is the reverse speed of this tank. If you get caught out in the open and you try and reverse, you'd be better off turning around by going forward than you would be by trying to go backwards. So yeah, just to let you guys know if you're thinking about picking up this broken tank. But this one I can full-heartedly say is one of the most overpowered, like actually physically overpowered tanks within World of Tanks, because it is genuinely, it just has everything. And especially if you're used to playing TDs where you stay hidden, this thing is almost undetectable for the most part when you're playing against a lot of your opponents. And you can see here, within like what, 4 shots we've picked up 1400 damage. That's how easy this tank actually is. And you might go, oh well, you are firing premium rounds, but remember, you pen with these premium rounds, and actually because it's a premium tank, you're making more money than if you were to fire the standard rounds and bounce. That is literally is what makes me laugh about the Hellcat 105. It just has everything that you could possibly need. It's a premium tank, it earns you credits, it is able to have results where super easy to do, and not like a lot of these overpowered premiums where they're a little bit boring to play. This one is actually super fun. Like when you play it right, when everything's going correctly, and when you actually feel like you're impacting the game, this one is super fun. And for the most part, you're doing that almost every single game. Yes, I'm sure many of you will jump in this tank and maybe you won't have a good game. So I'm not going to say buy this tank and you'll be super overpowered, because at the end of the day it's down to your skill level. If you are an amazing player at World of Tanks, you will be able to do things that no one could dream of in pretty much any other tank. If you're, you know, this is your first 10 battles, you're probably not going to do any better than if you kind of didn't have this tank and you had something terrible like a TOG 2. That's just how it works, that's just how it's going to be. Now what this means is, like, if you, the better you get, the better this tank gets. And unfortunately for us, because of the trees and the fact that this Tiger 1 is just literally purely focusing me, we do actually get taken out, but it doesn't really matter, it's the end of the game, and obviously that guy just wanted to take me out. But 2,400 damage. A very normal result for the Hellcat 105, as much as I don't really want to say that in this tier 6. Yeah, any tier 8 would be pretty much okay with getting 2,500 damage for the most part. So a tier 6 doing it pretty much every game, yeah, this tank is bloody good, to say the least. And of course many of you, and I mean many of you, have probably played against this thing or not really understood how powerful this thing is, even when you're playing in tier 8s against it. Now then, next replay. We're here on Teat Valve Ridge. This is a lovely gameplay for this tank in terms of the amount of damage that we do. Maybe not so much on the actual gameplay itself. However, what this kind of showcases, that even in these top tier games, or not top tier, but like bottom tier games where you're playing against tier 8s, that this tank can still perform. And it's not like it just performs, you know, okay, mediocre, it can kind of do alright. It's genuinely plays very, very well. And actually, for the most part, if you play it correctly, you can pretty much do just as good as some tier 8s within the game because of that alpha damage. And often, if you're playing against tier 8 mediums, yes, they have the health advantage, but they also lack the actual alpha to be able to really do too much against you. And that's where I absolutely love playing this tank and why it is just so good on World of Tanks. Of course, if you have played the Hellcat, I want to hear your thoughts, because maybe it's just because this is my tank, the one that I can somehow magically do fantastic in every single game, or maybe it's because, I don't know, it just suits my playstyle the best out of any of the tier 6 premiums. But of course, maybe it doesn't suit you, and I want to see that in the comment section down below. Or alternatively, if it is like what I'm saying it is, then yeah, let me know as well, because I want to make sure that I'm not overestimating how good this tank is, because I'm pretty sure I've got it on lock. But yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see as to what you guys think. But if you have any other kind of recommendations that you want me to try out at low tiers, or maybe you want me to try out various different tanks at tier 7, maybe something that isn't just tier 10 and tier 8 every single game, then make sure to leave those in the comment section down below, because ultimately I pick from your comments to actually make videos on various different tanks, and the Hellcat 105 is today's. So the key thing with this tank, I think, that kind of differentiates it against a lot of the other tanks, because don't get me wrong, there are tier 6s that have the alpha damage that the Hellcat 105 has, but they're not kind of in the same level, I don't think, and that is because the Hellcat can actually move. This can get a shift on. You can go about 60 kilometers an hour in this tank, which when you compare it to a lot of the other TDs, they're kind of sitting around like 30 kilometers an hour. When you look at things like the Schmiel, they don't have a turret, they like have very, very limited kind of degrees of being able to kind of perform very well in a holistic sense, because yeah, you might be really overpowered in one singular scenario, but does that really mean that the tank in general is super good? Well, no, because, you know, when you're in a Schmiel, yes, if the opponent's coming at you and you can pen them every single time, then yeah, the DPM's super, super effective and you can have amazing games. But what happens if, like, the enemy team aren't even anywhere near you and you have to actually relocate and get somewhere to be able to help out? Now, what you're seeing here is the typical farm fest, and because of the alpha of this tank, you're able to kind of dish out a lot of damage even against opponents. And the key thing I want to highlight about the Hellcat 105 is that if, and I mean if, you can get opponents that are advancing towards you in a straight line where they have to cover lots of distance, you can just pump them full of holes. Like, you can seriously negate their gameplay. And you can see here, we've put 2 shots into the Tiger 1 where we were able to effectively get like 700 damage within 8 seconds of firing the first shell, which makes this tank super dangerous for pretty much anyone that you play against. There are very few tanks that will be able to deal as much damage in such a short period of time, being 2 tiers lower. Now, the MX-1375 thinks he's funny, so we quickly shut him down with that idea. The E25 is moving behind, and it is 7-4. It's not a good scenario. No matter how good you are, or maybe how hopefully good you've played, or whatever it might be, sometimes you just won't win. And this is definitely one of the scenarios, because there are too many like high health tanks on the enemy team, full health tanks, kind of 70% health tanks, and we're on a 2-shot for pretty much any tank that we come up against, which is disappointing. But considering we're a tier 6, we dealt 2,500 damage, make that 2,800 damage, and we do get taken out here by the Tiger 1, but there's no surprise. He does have literally like nearly 3 times the hit points of our tank, so yeah, no surprise there. But 2,818 damage done, picking up a very, very nice result, and it showcases once again how strong the Hellcat 105 is. Now, if you do enjoy these kind of gameplays and these kind of showcases of the various different tanks, of course the defeat screen there a little bit disappointed, a little bit salty on that one. But we did manage to actually deal the most damage in the game in this tier 6. So yeah, that pretty much sums up why I think that this tank is just a little bit too strong, considering tier 8 games can be the ones in which you feel like you're the top dog. Well, not tier 8, but tier 7, sorry. But there we go. Hopefully you did enjoy this video. Of course, it was a much shorter one than usual because when you play in the Hellcat 105, the games tend to last a lot less because you're just that good. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Of course, if you want to check out some of the other gameplay, there's a fantastic T50-2 couple of replays that showcase another tier 6 premium tank that is super cheap and actually really fun. And of course, on the right hand side, you can see all of the gameplay and tank reviews playlist where we cover pretty much any tank in the game really that I've ever played. So yeah, take a look at those. And of course, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day and I'll see you there. Goodbye.